Captain Lee Dae-ho stared at the massive structure floating in the darkness of space. The thing was huge, bigger than any space station he had ever seen. It looked old, very old. The metal was dark and covered with strange patterns that seemed to glow softly in the starlight. "What do you think it is?" asked Dr. Park So-min as she walked up beside him on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn. She was the ship's expert on alien cultures and old languages. Her eyes were wide with excitement as she looked at the readings on her tablet. "I have no idea," Lee Dae-ho said quietly. "But it's not on any of the Federation maps. They told us this area was empty space." Commander Kim Tae-woo joined them at the viewing window. He was a big man with serious eyes who rarely smiled. "The scans show it's been here for a very long time. Maybe 50,000 years or more. That makes it older than any of the Federation races." The three humans stood in silence, looking at the ancient station. 2 years ago, humanity had finally learned how to travel faster than light. They had been so excited to meet other intelligent life in the galaxy. But when they found the Galactic Federation, the welcome had been cold. The Federation was made up of 12 different alien races. They had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. To them, humans were just babies who had barely learned to walk. The Federation gave humanity a small corner of space and told them to stay there. Most of the galaxy was off limits to human ships, but Lee Dae-ho was not the kind of man to follow rules he didn't agree with. He had taken his ship to the edge of known space, looking for something the aliens had missed. Now they had found it. "Captain," called Engineer Oh Sung-ho from his station. "I'm picking up some kind of energy signature from that thing. It's very faint, but it's definitely active." "Active?" Park So-min turned from the window. "After 50,000 years? That's what the readings say. Whatever built that station, they knew how to make things that last." Lee Dae-ho made his decision. "Take us closer, but keep the shields up and weapons ready. We don't know what we're dealing with." The Eternal Dawn moved slowly toward the ancient station. As they got closer, they could see more details. The structure was covered in symbols and patterns that seemed to shift and change when no one was looking directly at them. There were docking ports that looked like they might fit human ships, though that seemed impossible. "Captain," Park So-min said, her voice strange. "Those symbols on the hull, I think I've seen them before." "Where?" "In some very old caves on Earth. There are paintings that are maybe 40,000 years old. The symbols look almost the same." She shook her head. "But that can't be right. How could ancient humans on Earth know symbols from a space station?" Kim Tae-woo was studying the tactical displays. "I count at least 100 docking ports. This thing was built to handle a lot of ships. It was some kind of major hub." "A hub for what?" Lee Dae-ho wondered aloud. "Only one way to find out," Oh Sung-ho said. "We need to go aboard." An hour later, Lee Dae-ho led a small team through one of the station's airlocks. The artificial gravity was still working, and the air was breathable. Emergency lights came on as they walked through the corridors, as if the station was welcoming them. The inside of the station was just as mysterious as the outside. The walls were smooth and curved, made of some kind of metal that felt warm to the touch. More symbols covered every surface. Some areas looked like living quarters. Others contained machines that none of them could identify. "The technology is incredible," Oh Sung-ho whispered as he scanned the walls with his instruments. "The power source is something I've never seen before. It's been running for 50,000 years without maintenance." They reached what appeared to be the station's central chamber. It was a huge round room with a raised platform in the middle. On the platform stood a chair that looked almost human-sized, surrounded by banks of dark screens and controls. "This is weird," Kim Tae-woo said. "Why would aliens build a chair that fits humans?" Park So-min was studying the symbols on the walls around the platform. "These aren't random decorations. This is writing. It's a language." She pulled out her scanner and began recording everything. "Can you read it?" Lee Dae-ho asked. "Not yet. But there's something familiar about the structure. The way the symbols are arranged reminds me of very ancient human languages, the ones we spoke before we invented writing." Kim Tae-woo walked up to the platform, As his foot touched the first step, the entire room suddenly came to life. Lights blazed to life overhead. The screens around the chair flickered and began displaying streams of data. A low humming sound filled the air. "Tae-woo, get away from there," Lee Dae-ho shouted, but it was too late. A beam of soft light shot from the chair and washed over Kim Tae-woo. He stood frozen for a moment, then relaxed as the light faded. "I'm okay," he said, sounding surprised. "Actually, I feel fine. Better than fine." One of the screens near the chair suddenly displayed a new image. It was a three-dimensional star map showing the entire galaxy. 12 points of light were pulsing slowly, scattered across thousands of light years. "Those locations," Oh Sung-ho said, studying his instruments. "They match the home systems of the Federation races." A new sound filled the chamber. It was like music, but also like speech. The screens began showing more images, pictures of worlds being transformed, of primitive creatures being changed and improved, of great ships traveling between the stars. "Park." So-min gasped. "I understand some of this. The language is so old, but parts of it are like the theoretical root language that all human speech came from." The images on the screens were telling a story. They showed a great civilization that had spread across the galaxy long ago. The beings in the images looked human, but they were tall and graceful, with technology beyond anything the current Federation possessed. "They're showing us their history," Park So-min said, her voice full of wonder. "This civilization, they traveled everywhere. They found worlds and changed them. They found primitive species and helped them grow." The images showed more. Great projects that took thousands of years. Entire solar systems being reshaped. Species being guided and taught and improved until they could build their own civilizations. Then something changed. The images showed the great civilization preparing for something. Ships being built, people going into some kind of deep sleep, entire worlds being hidden or abandoned. "They left," Kim Tae-woo said quietly. "This whole civilization just packed up and left." But the final images showed something else. Hidden facilities scattered across the galaxy. Sleeper ships drifting in dark space, and a promise that someday they would return. The screens went dark. The humming stopped. But one final image appeared, a simple symbol that made all three humans catch their breath. It was the same symbol that had been painted in caves on Earth 40,000 years ago. The same symbol that appeared in the oldest human myths and legends. "My God," Park So-min whispered. "What if we're not the newcomers? What if humans have been here before?" Before anyone could answer, new alarms began sounding throughout the station. Oh Sung-ho checked his instruments and paled. "We've got company. Federation ships, lots of them. They're coming in fast." Lee Dae-ho looked one more time at the symbol on the screen, then made his decision. "Download everything you can from these computers. We're leaving." "But Captain," Park So-min protested, "we've barely begun to understand what this place is. And if the Federation gets their hands on it, we never will. Move." As the eternal dawn raced away from the ancient station with Federation warships in pursuit, none of them realized that they had just taken the first step on a journey that would change everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. The truth was bigger and more dangerous than any of them could imagine. The eternal dawn jumped into hyperspace just as Federation warships reached weapons range. Captain Lee Dae-ho watched the stars stretch into lines as they escaped, but his mind was still back on the ancient station. "Did we get the data?" he asked. Oh Sung-ho. The engineer nodded, but his face was pale. "We got it, but Captain, you need to see this. The information is incredible." In the ship's main briefing room, the senior officers gathered around a large display screen. Oh Sung-ho had been working for hours to decode what they had downloaded from the station. "The station wasn't just a hub," he began. "It was a control center. These files show coordinates for 12 other stations, each one hidden in a different star system." Park So-min leaned forward. "Which systems?" "That's the scary part. They're all in the home systems of the Federation races. Every single one." Commander Kim Tae-woo crossed his arms. "That can't be a coincidence." "It's not," Oh Sung-ho continued. "According to these files, those stations were built to monitor something called Project Genesis. Each station was responsible for watching over a different world. The screen changed to show detailed star maps with travel routes marked between dozens of worlds. The routes were old, very old, but they connected every major inhabited system in the galaxy. This civilization, whoever they didn't just explore the galaxy, Park So-min said, studying the data. They shaped it. They went to primitive worlds and changed them. Changed them how? Lee Dae-ho asked. Oh Sung-ho brought up new files. They found worlds with basic life and made them better. They took simple creatures and helped them evolve faster. The files call it guided evolution. The data was overwhelming. It showed thousands of years of careful work. Entire ecosystems being adjusted, climate being controlled, and most shocking of all, primitive species being slowly changed and improved. Until they became intelligent. The timing fits, Kim Tae-woo said grimly. According to Federation history, all 12 races developed intelligence at roughly the same time, about 40,000 years ago. That's when this project was happening. Park So-min was reading through linguistic data. Captain, these language files are incredible. I can see connections between the ancient symbols and modern Federation languages. It's like they all came from the same root source. You mean this ancient civilization taught them language? More than that, they gave them the foundation for all their cultures. Look at this. She brought up comparison charts showing similar myths and legends from all 12 Federation worlds. Stories of great teachers who came from the stars. Tales of gods who lifted primitive beings up to become civilized. Legends of a great disappearance when the teachers went away. Every Federation race has these stories, Park So-min explained. They all remember being visited by advanced beings who helped them grow, but they think the stories are just myths. Lee Dae-ho studied the data for a long time. Where did this civilization go? The station showed them leaving, but to where? That's what we need to find out, Oh Sung-ho said. But we can't do it alone. We need to visit the other stations. The Federation will try to stop us, Kim Tae-woo warned. They don't want us finding this information. Why? Lee Dae-ho asked. What are they afraid of? His answer came sooner than expected. As the eternal dawn approached the coordinates for the second station, they received an urgent message from Earth. Ambassador Yu-ji Hai appeared on the screen, looking worried and angry. Captain Lee, what have you done? She demanded. The Federation Council is in emergency session. They're calling for your arrest. They say you stole classified information from a restricted archaeological site. Classified? Lee Dae-ho repeated. That station was an empty space. No one claimed it. They claim it now. They say it belongs to them under ancient salvage rights. You're ordered to return immediately and surrender all data you collected. Lee Dae-ho looked at his officers. What if we refuse? Ambassador Yu's face was grim. Then they'll declare you pirates and send warships to stop you. Captain, please be reasonable. Humanity is barely accepted in the Federation as it is. If we make them angry now, if we give up this information now, we may never get another chance to learn the truth. Park So-min interrupted. Ambassador, you need to see what we found. I don't care what you found. I care about keeping humanity safe. The connection ended. Lee Dae-ho stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his crew. They're afraid, he said quietly. The Federation knows something about these stations. They're afraid of what we might find. So what do? Kim Tae-woo asked. We keep looking, but we do it quietly. The second station was hidden inside an asteroid field in the Altarian system, home of the lizard-like Altarians. It was smaller than the first station but contained similar technology. Oh Sung-ho managed to interface with its computers before Federation patrols found them. The third station was buried on a moon in Centauran space. The fourth was disguised as a damaged freighter drifting between stars. Each one contained more pieces of the puzzle. It's a network, Oh Sung-ho explained as they gathered in the briefing room again. All these stations were connected. They shared information and coordinated their activities across the entire galaxy. Coordinated what activities? Lee Dae-ho asked. Park So-min had been studying the linguistic data from all the stations. Her face was pale as she looked up from her work. They weren't just helping primitive species evolve, she said slowly. They were creating them. Look at this genetic data. The screen showed complex DNA sequences and evolutionary trees. Every Federation race was represented, along with detailed records of genetic modifications made over thousands of years. The Altarians didn't evolve naturally, Park So-min continued. Neither did the Centaurans or any of the others. They were all created by this ancient civilization, modified from simpler life forms and guided until they became intelligent. Kim Tae-woo stared at the data. You're saying the Federation races are artificial? Not artificial, but they're not natural evolution either. They were carefully designed and shaped by someone with incredible knowledge of genetics and biology. Oh Sung-ho pulled up more files. There's more. The stations have detailed records of terraforming projects. Entire worlds were reshaped to support these new species. Atmospheres were changed, continents were moved. It was the biggest engineering project in galactic history. But who did it? Lee Dae-ho asked. Who had the power to create entire species and reshape worlds? Before anyone could answer, new alarms sounded. A Federation fleet had found them again. But this time they weren't just pursuing. They were attacking. Shields up, Kim Tae-woo ordered as the ship shook from weapons fire. Return fire. The Eternal Dawn was a good ship, but they were outnumbered 10-1. Federation cruisers surrounded them on all sides. They're not trying to capture us, Oh Sung-ho reported. Those are military-grade weapons. They want us dead. Why? Lee Dae-ho wondered. What's so dangerous about old archaeological data? Park So-min was still working at her station even as the ship rocked from more weapons fire. Suddenly she gasped. Captain, I found something. In the deepest files of the last station, there's a record of the creators of all this. Who were they? The genetic signatures match. The DNA patterns match. Captain, the beings who created all the Federation races, who reshaped the entire galaxy. Another massive explosion shook the ship. The lights flickered. They were human. The ancient civilization that built all this, that created all these species and guided their evolution for thousands of years, they were us. They were our ancestors. The bridge fell silent except for the sounds of battle. Everyone stared at Park So-min. That's impossible, Kim Tae-woo said finally. The data doesn't lie. The genetic markers are clear. 40,000 years ago, humans already had a galactic civilization. We were here first. We created the Federation races. And then, for some reason, we disappeared. Lee Dae-ho looked around at his crew as the ship continued to shake from enemy fire. They know, he said quietly. The Federation leadership knows the truth. That's why they're trying to kill us. They don't want anyone to learn that their entire civilization was created by humans. What do we do now? Oh Sung-ho asked. Lee Dae-ho made his decision. We find out what happened to our ancestors and we learn why they disappeared. As the Eternal Dawn jumped into hyperspace again, barely escaping the Federation fleet, none of them realized that their discovery was about to trigger events that would shake the galaxy to its core. The truth about humanity's past was bigger and more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. Dr. Choi Min-ho had been working for 3 days straight in the Eternal Dawn's medical bay. The genetic samples from the ancient stations were unlike anything he had ever seen. His hands shook as he looked at the test results for the 100th time. Captain, he called over the intercom, you need to see this. All of you. Captain Lee Dae-ho arrived with his senior staff. They had been running from Federation fleets for 2 weeks now, jumping from system to system, always staying one step ahead of their pursuers. What did you find? Lee Dae-ho asked. Dr. Choi pulled up a complex genetic chart on his screen. I've analyzed the DNA samples from all the stations we visited. The results are incredible. Just tell us, Commander Kim Tae-woo said impatiently. We don't have much time before we need to jump again. The Federation races aren't just created by humans, Dr. Choi said. They're literally our children. Every single one of them shares genetic markers with humanity. The Altarians, the Centaurans, all of them. They're all descended from human stock. Dr. Park Soman leaned forward. You mean they're all human variants? Exactly. Our ancestors didn't just uplift primitive species. They took human genetic material and modified it to create new forms of life adapted for different environments. The Altarian scales and cold resistance, those are engineered human traits. The Centauran's ability to survive in high radiation, also human modifications. Engineer Oh Sung-ho was studying the data on his tablet. This explains why the station technology responded to Kim Tae-woo. It recognizes human DNA because it was built by humans. But why would our ancestors do this? Lee Dae-ho asked. Why create all these different species? I think I know, Park Soman said quietly. I've been studying the cultural data from the stations. Our ancestors called it the Great Seeding. They were preparing the galaxy for something. Preparing for what? That's what we need to find out. But the Federation won't give us the chance. As if summoned by her words, alarms began blaring again. Oh Sung-ho checked his instruments and cursed. Federation ships incoming. A lot of them, they found us again. This time, there was nowhere to run. The eternal dawn was in the middle of empty space, with Federation warships jumping in all around. Them. Lee Dae-ho counted at least 20 enemy vessels. This is Admiral Vex of the Federation fleet, came a voice over the radio. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Lee Dae-ho looked at his crew. They had discovered something that could change everything humanity thought about their place in the galaxy. But if they were captured or killed, the truth would die with them. Send a message to Earth, he told Oh Sung-ho. All the data we've collected, everything. Captain, Kim Tae-woo said, I have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work. I'm listening. The stations we found were just monitoring posts. But the data mentioned central command facilities, much larger installations that controlled the entire project. If we can find one of those, they'll be even more heavily guarded, Lee Dae-ho pointed out. Maybe. Or maybe they've been forgotten for so long that nobody remembers they exist. Park Soman was already working on her computer. The linguistic data mentioned something called the Prime Archive, a master facility that contains the complete records of the Great Seeding Project. Where is it? The references are vague, but I think it's in the Vega system, hidden in the asteroid belt. Lee Dae-ho made his decision. Set course for Vega, full speed. Captain, Oh Sung-ho protested. The Federation will follow us there. We'll be leading them right to it. Then we better get there first. The chase across space was like nothing any of them had experienced. The Eternal Dawn pushed her engines to the limit while Federation ships pursued them through 3 different star systems. They fought running battles through asteroid fields and past gas giant moons. At the Kepler station, they picked up an unexpected ally. Colonel Bae Soo-jin commanded a small human military outpost there. When she learned what Lee Dae-ho's crew had discovered, she didn't hesitate. My ships will delay them, she told Lee Dae-ho over the radio. Get to Vega, find the truth. Colonel, you'll be outnumbered 50-1. Some things are worth fighting for, Captain. The truth about who we are is one of them. As Colonel Bae's small fleet engaged the pursuing Federation forces, the Eternal Dawn escaped toward Vega. Behind them, explosions lit up space as human and alien ships fought desperately. The Prime Archive was not what they expected. Instead of a station, they found an entire artificial world hidden inside a hollow asteroid. It was massive, bigger than Earth's moon, and it had been waiting in the darkness for 40,000 years. The energy readings are incredible, Oh Sung-ho reported. This thing has more power than the entire Federation fleet combined. As they docked with the ancient world, systems began activating automatically. Lights came on throughout the massive structure. Air began circulating. The artificial world was waking up. Inside, they found wonders that took their breath away. Vast libraries containing the knowledge of an entire galactic civilization. Laboratories where new forms of life had been created. Museums displaying the history of humanity's first expansion across the stars. And everywhere, the same message repeated in dozens of different human languages. For those who come after, for those who carry our blood and our dreams, remember what we built. Remember why we left. Dr. Choi found genetic laboratories that were still functional after all these millennia. Captain, these facilities could create new species or modify existing ones. Our ancestors had complete control over evolution itself. Park So-min discovered historical archives that told the complete story of the Great Seeding. They spent 10,000 years on this project. They found hundreds of worlds and adapted them for life. They created dozens of different human variants, each one designed for a specific environment. But it was Oh Sung-ho who found the most shocking discovery of all. In the deepest levels of the archive, he located the master control center for the entire galactic network. "Captain, you need to see this," he called over the intercom. "I found the real reason our ancestors left." In the control center, massive screens displayed star maps of the entire galaxy. But these maps were different from any they had seen before. They showed not just where stars and planets were, but when they would be. "It's a prediction system," Oh Sung-ho explained. "Our ancestors could predict the future movement of every star, every planet, every asteroid in the galaxy. They knew exactly what the galaxy would look like thousands of years in advance." "Why would they need that?" Kim Tae-woo asked. The answer was on the screens. The predictions showed a great catastrophe coming to the galaxy, a wave of destruction that would sweep across space, destroying worlds and civilizations. "They knew it was coming," Park So-min said in wonder. "Our ancestors knew that something terrible was going to happen, so they prepared for it." "How?" Lee Dae-ho asked. "By spreading human life across the entire galaxy, by creating multiple species that could survive different types of disasters, by building hidden facilities that could preserve knowledge and technology. They turned the whole galaxy into a survival system for humanity." Dr. Choi found more information in the genetic databases. They didn't just create other species, they created multiple versions of humanity itself. Different groups adapted for different environments. Some went into deep space, others hid on worlds throughout the galaxy, and some— He paused, staring at his screen. "Some stayed on Earth and forgot everything. They made themselves forget so they could start over if everything else failed. The pieces were all falling into place. Modern humanity wasn't the original form of their species. They were the backup plan, the fail-safe. If everything else was destroyed, if all the other human variants died out, the people of Earth would still be there to start again." "But what were they preparing for?" Lee Dae-ho asked. "What disaster was so terrible that they had to spread humanity across the entire galaxy?" Before anyone could answer, new alarms sounded throughout the ancient facility. Federation fleets had found them. But this time, they weren't alone. "Captain," Oh Sung-ho reported, "I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the galaxy. Other archives are coming online. The whole network is activating." On the screens around them, star maps began lighting up as hidden facilities revealed themselves. Hundreds of them scattered across every sector of space. Some were stations, others were entire worlds. All of them had been waiting for this moment. "We woke something up," Kim Tae-woo said quietly. "Our presence here, our discovery of the truth. It triggered some kind of automatic system." The screens now showed something else. Deep in the heart of each hidden facility, sealed chambers were beginning to open. Chambers that had been closed for 40,000 years. "What's in those chambers?" Lee Dae-ho asked. Park So-min checked the archive records. Her face went pale as she read. "People," she whispered. "Our ancestors. They didn't disappear. They've been sleeping all this time, waiting for their descendants to find them. Waiting for the right moment to wake up. And when is that moment? Now. The catastrophe they were preparing for, it's about to begin." As Federation ships surrounded the Prime Archive and demanded their surrender, none of the humans aboard the Eternal Dawn realized that they had just triggered the awakening of an ancient civilization that had been waiting 40,000 years to return. Admiral Shin Woo-young had never commanded so many ships before. 3 weeks ago, she had been in charge of 12 human vessels patrolling the outer rim of human space. Now she found herself leading a fleet of over 300 ships, and more were arriving every hour. The message from Captain Lee Dae-ho had reached every human colony in the galaxy. The data from the Prime Archive had spread like wildfire across human networks. Now everyone knew the truth about humanity's ancient past, and the galaxy was in chaos. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving surrender. Requests from the Procyon system. 3 Federation worlds want to join the Human Alliance." "Surrender requests?" "They're saying they want to return to their human heritage. They don't want to fight against their creators." Xin Wuyang looked at the tactical display showing the current state of the galaxy. It was a mess. Some Federation worlds had welcomed the revelation about their human origins. Others had declared war on humanity. And throughout space, ancient facilities were waking up after 40,000 years of sleep. "Status report on the awakening sites?" she asked her intelligence officer. "Over 400 locations have activated so far. Most are automated defense stations or equipment depots. But 17 sites appear to be..." He paused. "Inhabited." "You mean people are actually waking up?" "Yes, Admiral. Humans who went into some kind of deep sleep 40,000 years ago. They're starting to come out of stasis." On her command ship's main screen, reports were coming in from across the galaxy. The news was incredible and terrifying at the same time. Ancient human cities were rising from beneath the surfaces of dead worlds. Massive fleets of ships were emerging from hidden bases inside stars. Technologies that made current Federation science look primitive were coming online everywhere. But not everyone was happy about these developments. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "the Rigel Federation fleet is moving to attack the Aurora colony. They're calling it a cleansing operation to eliminate human influence from their space." "How many ships?" 200 Federation cruisers and battleships. "Admiral, the colonists there only have basic defenses. They'll be wiped out." Xin Wuyang studied the tactical situation. Aurora colony was 3 days away, even at maximum speed. The Federation fleet would reach it long before any human ships could intervene. Unless... "Send a message to Awakening. Site Omega-7, she ordered. "Ask them if they can help." Omega-7 was one of the sites where ancient humans had awakened. They had been very mysterious in their communications so far, speaking in archaic forms of human language that were hard to understand. But maybe they would help protect other humans. The response came back within minutes. It wasn't words. It was a star map showing the location of Aurora colony, and a simple message: "We remember our children." 6 hours later, the Federation fleet attacking Aurora colony was destroyed. Not damaged, not defeated, completely destroyed. 200 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy simply stopped existing. The only evidence of what happened came from long-range sensors that detected massive energy signatures appearing near Aurora colony for exactly 37 seconds. When the energy faded, the Federation fleet was gone and Aurora colony was safe. "What kind of weapons can do that?" Xin Wuyang's tactical officer asked in amazement. "The kind that ancient humans built 40,000 years ago," she replied grimly. "And apparently they still work." Dr. Nam Heejin was having the most exciting and terrifying week of her scientific career. She had been part of the team that first analyzed the data from the Prime Archive. Now she found herself working directly with awakened humans from the ancient era. The first one she met was a woman who called herself Elder Park Yeonsu. She looked completely human, but something about her eyes suggested incredible age and wisdom. When she spoke, it was in a dialect of Korean that hadn't been used for thousands of years. "You are our descendants," Elder Park said through a translation device. "But you are also something new, something we did not expect." "What do you mean?" Dr. Nam asked. "We created many variants of humanity to survive different challenges. But you, the Earth humans, you were meant to remain simple, to forget the past and live quiet lives while the galaxy recovered from the coming disaster." "What disaster?" Elder Park gestured to a holographic display showing the galaxy. "Every 50,000 years, the galactic core becomes unstable. It sends out waves of radiation that kill most life in the galaxy. We calculated that the next wave would occur in approximately 40,000 years from our time." Dr. Nam did the math quickly. That's now. The disaster you were preparing for is happening now? It should have happened already." But something is different. The galactic core is more stable than our calculations predicted. The disaster may be delayed by several thousand years. So we woke you up too early. Elder Park smiled. Or perhaps you woke us up at exactly the right time. The galaxy needs change, and change often requires conflict. That conflict was spreading everywhere. The revelation about humanity's true nature had divided the galaxy into three groups. Some species accepted their human heritage and wanted to rejoin their parent civilization. Others rejected it completely and declared war on all humans, and a few remained neutral, trying to find a middle path. The war was unlike anything in recorded history. Ancient human technology was awakening across the galaxy, creating massive weapons and defenses that the current Federation couldn't match. But the Federation had numbers and experience, and many of their leaders were willing to destroy entire worlds rather than accept human dominance. Captain Lee Dae-ho found himself at the center of it all. His discovery at the first ancient station had started everything. Now he commanded a special task force working directly with the awakened ancients to coordinate humanity's response to the galactic crisis. The Centaurans have officially declared their independence from the Federation, Commander Kim Tae-woo reported during their morning briefing. They want to return to human leadership. What about the Altarians? Lee Dae-ho asked, still fighting. Their government is split. Half want to join us, half want to stay with the Federation. Dr. Park So-min had been working with linguistic experts from the awakened settlements. Captain, I think there's something the ancients aren't telling us. They keep referring to the Great Purpose and the Final Awakening, but they won't explain what they mean. Maybe they don't trust us yet, Oh Sung-ho suggested. We're not the same humans they were 40,000 years ago. Their discussion was interrupted by urgent alarms. Captain, the communications officer called out. Priority message from Admiral Shin. The Federation is launching Operation Cleansing. They're going to try to destroy all the awakening sites simultaneously. Lee Dae-ho studied the tactical information as it came in. The Federation had gathered the largest fleet in galactic history. Over 2,000 ships were moving toward human positions throughout space. They're going to try to wipe us out, Kim Tae-woo said grimly. All of us, modern humans and ancients alike. Can we stop them? Not with conventional weapons. We need help from the awakened sites. Lee Dae-ho made contact with Elder Park Yeon-soo. When he explained the situation, she was quiet for a long time. We had hoped to avoid this, she finally said. But if the galaxy chooses war over understanding, we must defend ourselves. Can you help us? We can do more than help. We can end this conflict permanently. But the cost will be high. What cost? The revelation of our greatest secret. The real reason we spread humanity across the galaxy. The truth about what we became during our long sleep. Before Lee Dae-ho could ask what she meant, space around him began to change. Reality itself seemed to ripple and bend. When it stabilized, he found himself no longer aboard his ship, but standing in a vast chamber that seemed to exist somewhere outside normal space. Other humans were there too. Admiral Shin Woo-young, Dr. Nam Hee-jin, thousands of others from across the galaxy. They had all been brought to this impossible place by powers beyond their understanding, and standing before them were the awakened ancients, no longer looking entirely human. Their eyes held depths that contained the knowledge of eons. Their bodies flickered between physical form and something else entirely. We are not the same species we were when we went to sleep, Elder Park announced to the gathered crowd. 40,000 years of hibernation changed us. We have become something more than human, something that exists partially outside of normal space and time. We became guardians of reality itself, another ancient added. We learned to manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. We can reshape matter, bend space, control time itself. Admiral Shin Woo-young stepped forward. Why are you telling us this? Because the Federation fleet is about to attack, and to defend you, we must reveal our true nature to the galaxy. We must show them what humanity became during our long sleep. And what will happen then? Elder Park's expression was sad. The galaxy will learn that humanity is no longer just another species. We have become something that transcends normal existence, and that knowledge will change everything. As the assembled humans tried to process this revelation, reports began coming in from the approaching Federation fleet. Their ships had stopped dead in space. Elder Jin Kyung-soo had been awake for only 3 days, but he already understood that the galaxy had changed in ways his people had never expected. He stood in the command center of the Prime Archive, watching reports come in from across space. The war that had started with simple archaeological discovery was now something much larger and more dangerous. The Federation fleet is still frozen in space, reported Captain Ryu Yun-hai, who had become his liaison with the modern humans. Their ships haven't moved for 6 hours. Our people are getting scared. Scared of us? Jin Kyung-soo asked. Scared of what we've become. Admiral Shin says some of her officers are calling us gods. Jin Kyung-soo sighed. This was exactly what he had feared. We are not gods, Captain. We are still human, but we have grown beyond what humanity was when we went to sleep. Through the vast windows of the command center, he could see the galaxy spread out before them. 40,000 years ago, when he had entered the long sleep, he had been just another human scientist working on the Great Seeding Project. Now he could perceive reality in ways that normal humans couldn't imagine. He could see the flow of time itself, the connections between all living things, the fundamental forces that held the universe together. His consciousness existed partially outside normal space, allowing him to be in multiple places at once if needed. Elder, Captain Ryu said carefully, what exactly did happen to you during the sleep? How did you change? We didn't plan it, Jin Kyung-soo replied. The stasis process was meant to preserve us unchanged for thousands of years, but consciousness is more complex than we understood. During the long sleep, our minds began to expand beyond the boundaries of our physical bodies. Expand how? We learned to think with the universe itself. Our consciousness merged with the quantum field that underlies all reality. We became able to manipulate matter and energy directly through thought alone. Captain Ryu looked uncomfortable. That sounds like magic. Technology advanced enough becomes indistinguishable from magic, but it is still technology, still based on natural laws. We simply learned to use laws that normal science hasn't discovered yet. Their conversation was interrupted by urgent alarms. Throughout the facility, Dr. Nam Hyejin's voice came over the communication system. Elder Jin, we have a problem. The Federation isn't just planning to attack us. They're planning to destroy the entire galactic core. They think if they can cause the radiation disaster you were preparing for, it will kill all the awakened humans. Jin Kyung-soo felt a chill of fear that he hadn't experienced in millennia. They don't understand. If they destabilize the galactic core now, the radiation won't just kill us. It will sterilize every world in the galaxy. Billions of innocent people will die. Can you stop them? Yes. But the cost? He paused, considering the implications. To prevent that level of destruction, we would have to reveal the full extent of our abilities. The galaxy would see us reshape reality itself. And then what? Then everything changes forever. The other species will either worship us or fear us. Either way, the galaxy we tried to create will be destroyed. Jin Kyung-soo reached out with his expanded consciousness, touching the minds of his fellow awakened humans across the galaxy. They had been having the same conversation on hundreds of different worlds. The decision they faced was terrible in its simplicity. They could allow the Federation to destroy the galactic core, killing billions but preserving the secret of what humanity had become. Or they could stop the destruction, but in doing so reveal that humanity had evolved beyond the understanding of all other species. Captain Lee Dae-ho's voice came through the communication system. Elder, we're receiving reports that some Federation worlds are rebelling against their own governments. The Centaurans have declared that they refuse to participate in genocide. 3 other species are saying the same thing. How many are still supporting the attack on the galactic core? About half the Federation, but that's still enough ships to do massive damage. Jin Kyung-soo made his decision. He opened his mind to every awakened human in the galaxy, sharing his thoughts instantly across impossible distances. My ancient brothers and sisters, he said to them all simultaneously. The time for hiding is over. Our descendants need us. The galaxy needs us. We must act. The response was immediate. Across space, the awakened humans began to reveal their true nature. Reality bent around them as they stepped outside the normal laws of physics. On the Federation flagship approaching the galactic core, Admiral Vex was reviewing the final attack plans when his universe suddenly became very strange. The walls of his ship began to glow with soft light. The air itself seemed to sing with harmonious music that came from nowhere, and then a human appeared in the center of his command bridge. Not walked in, not transported. Simply became present, as if he had always been there. And Admiral Vex was only now noticing him. The human looked normal enough except for his eyes. Those eyes contained depths that seemed to go on forever, as if they reflected the entire cosmos. "Admiral," the human said in perfect Federation standard. "I am Elder Jin Kyung-soo. You need to stop this attack." "Impossible," Admiral Vex snarled. "No human can penetrate our shields. No human can transport aboard a moving ship." "I did not transport, Admiral. I am here because I choose to be here, just as I am simultaneously present on every ship in your fleet." Admiral Vex looked at his tactical displays and felt his heart skip a beat. The readings showed a human presence on every single Federation ship, the same human somehow in 1,000 places at once. "What are you?" Admiral Vex whispered. "I am what humanity became while we slept. We are the guardians you never knew you had. And we cannot allow you to destroy the galaxy in your fear. We will not bow to human domination. We do not want domination. We want our children to live and grow and find their own path. But if you force our hand..." Reality around them shifted. Suddenly Admiral Vex found himself standing not on his ship, but in space itself, surrounded by stars. He could breathe, could speak, could think, but he was floating in the vacuum of space as if it were air. Around him the entire Federation fleet hung motionless. Every ship, every weapon, every system had been gently but completely disabled. "This is what we can do when we choose to act," Jin Kyung-soo said, his voice coming from everywhere at once. "We can stop your ships without harming a single person aboard them. We can prevent your attack without causing a single death. We can reshape reality itself to protect the innocent. But we could also do much more if we had to. We could unmake your ships entirely. We could move your worlds to different star systems. We could alter the past itself to prevent this war from ever starting." Admiral Vex felt terror unlike anything he had ever experienced. "You're not human anymore. You're something else entirely." "We are still human, Admiral. We carry the same hopes and dreams and loves that all humans share. But we have grown beyond the limitations that once constrained us." "What do you want?" "We want peace. We want our children, all our children, to have the chance to grow and learn, and become whatever they choose to be. The species we created were meant to be free, not servants. The species that evolved naturally deserve the same freedom. And if we refuse?" Jin Kyung-soo's expression was infinitely sad. "Then we will do what we must to protect the innocent. But we would prefer that you choose a better path." The scene shifted again. Admiral Vex found himself back on his ship's bridge, but now representatives of every species in the galaxy were there with him. Somehow Jin Kyung-soo had brought them all together in the same space. "The truth is now revealed," Jin Kyung-soo announced to them all. "Humanity was here first. We created some of you. We guided others. We have watched over all of you. And now we ask you to choose." "Choose what?" demanded the Altarian ambassador. "Choose whether you want to build a galaxy based on cooperation and growth, or one based on fear and domination. Choose whether you want to learn from us or simply fear us. Choose whether you want to move forward together or remain divided by old prejudices." Captain Ryu Yun-hai, who had been watching everything in amazement, stepped forward. "Elder, what about us? The modern humans, what's our role in all this?" Jin Kyung-soo smiled at her. "You are the bridge between what we were and what we became. You are still growing, still changing, still discovering what humanity can become. You will help guide the galaxy toward whatever future we build together. But you're so much more powerful than us. Won't everyone just look to you for answers? Power without wisdom is dangerous. You have something we lost during our long sleep: the ability to grow and change and adapt to new situations. We have become very good at solving the problems we understood 40,000 years ago. But this galaxy, these challenges, these opportunities, they require fresh thinking." The assembled representatives were arguing among themselves in dozens of different languages. Some wanted to surrender to the awakened humans. Others wanted to keep fighting. Still others were proposing various forms of negotiation and compromise. Finally, Elder Jin Kyung-soo raised his hand and everyone fell silent. "We will not rule you," he said simply. We will not force you to obey us. We will not reshape your civilizations according to our desires. We have the power to do all these things, but we choose not to.